This is the graphical user interface of Expeyes Junior. Here you have the plot window, and on this side all the input sources are listed, say A1 to Sen, and the square wave readbacks SQ1 and SQ2. In the second column here we have the trigger options, and there are 4 channels. 4 display channels means out of these 7 sources any 4 can be simultaneously plotted, up to 4 channels. And on this side we have some controls for setting the square wave frequencies and the programmable voltage source value and some measurements. So we'll try to explore these features by making the following hardware connections. The programmable voltage source is connected to A1 and the sine wave output is connected to A2. That means the AC signal on A2 and a DC signal on A1. And A1 and A2 can measure voltage in the -5 to +5 volts range. So we can make a measurement after setting some value on programmable voltage source. Say I set it to 1 volt, PVS is 1 volt. Now measure what is there on A1. Since we have connected PVS externally to A1 using a piece of wire, it is near 1 volt. Now if I change this to say 2 volts, A1 is also around 2 volt. And you can also assign A1 to this channel, is already assigned to channel 1. You can assign these sources to any one of these channels. When you start the program, the first channel is assigned to, the first source is A1 is assigned to channel 1. That's why this trace is already sitting here. Now if you want to measure A2, say if you make a measurement, every time it will show different values because an AC signal is there. So it doesn't make sense to measure it like that. So drag A2 to the second channel. You can see a waveform is there, but you are not seeing a full trace. You change the horizontal scale, the time axis, time base you are changing using this slider. So you move this so that at least 3-4 cycles are visible on the screen. You can also change the vertical axis. Now it is 1 volt per division. You can make it say 5 volt per division or even smaller. So leave it at 1 volt per division. But you see the trace is not stable here. That means the A2 is the trace is starting every time at a different voltage here. That is why it's not stable. This can be fixed by choosing the trigger source. Now you click on this ATR and say drag it to A2. So analog trigger now effective on input A2. So now you can see this is the trigger source. Channel 2 is the A2 is the trigger source, and trigger level is kept to 0. You can change the trigger level and see that starting point is changing. So we have used 2 channels. Signals are from A1 and A2. There are other features, like if you want to measure the frequency of this waveform, AC waveform, you can do it by a mathematical fit, drag channel 2 to fit. So this compares this with the sine wave and says the voltage is this and frequency is here around 150 Hertz. Now let us try to get say more channels. Like you go here there is a field where you can enter the frequency of the square waves. So enter 100 and check this square 1 button. Now square 1 is generating a 100 Hertz square wave. But you can view that by assigning it to a channel because there is a readback on square 1. So drag square 1 to third channel, CS3. You can see there is a square wave here. And now you see, since you have triggered source is this one, the other one is not stable because they have no time correlation in between. But you can trigger on this. Suppose if you want to trigger on say channel 3, you can use, since it is a sharp rising waveform, you can say wait for rising edge on say SQ1. Now you see it is triggering on this one. To make it clear, let us change the volts per division to 5 and you can move this trace by giving some offset. So now it is on this rising edge of this square one. But you can go and change this now to make it say 200 and assign that value to square 2, and let us have a look at square 2 on the fourth channel. This is square 2. So let us move it down, give an offset. So you can see now we have all the 4 channels assigned, and the first channel is having a DC value on it. So make it say 4 volts. You can see DC changes. So we have assigned all the 4 channels. Now there are other features, like say channel 1 is a sine wave. You can take a Fourier transform it, say CH1, drag it to FTR. CH1, of course, CH1 is a DC, we should drag CH2 to Fourier transform. So here you can see the Fourier transform. It is only having a single peak because it's a pure sine wave around 150 Hertz. If you drag say square 1 or square 2, so that is assigned to say channel 3 or 4, so let us do this drag to transform, take a Fourier transform of the signal on 4th channel. Here you can see the fundamental is there, it's around 200 Hertz, but then you have something at 600 Hertz and 1 kilohertz, that means 3 times, 5 times, all the 3rd, 5th harmonics are present, and there is also a DC component. So it is quite easy to do a Fourier transform this way on this any of these displayed waveforms. Now let us remove all these assigned channels by deleting them one by one. That means they are deassigned now. Say channel 3, channel 2 and channel 1. So it's no more getting updated. But now if you want, you can assign another one. Say you can assign A2 to channel 1. Sine wave is assigned to channel 1, and we change it to 5 volt per division. Now again it is jumping around, our trigger source is different, so again make this as a trigger source. Say analog trigger on A2. So it is again triggered. So this is how you use this interface. There are other features like you can save this trace to a text, like you enter your file name here, whatever you want to add, give a file name. It will say now this trace will be saved to a text file. The time and voltage coordinates will be saved here, and you can also operate this in a continuous mode or a single scan mode. Now it is in continuous mode, you can make it a single scan. Now every time you press this button, then only it is going to capture and display. Now again go back to the loop mode, the continuous scan mode, and this data can be transferred into a program called XM Grace. There is a plotting program that you can see there is another pop-up window with the same graph.